Good evening. I'm Gina Roberts, Voter Education Director for the Citizens Clean Elections Commission. As the state's only nonpartisan voter education agency, Clean Elections is proud to sponsor these debates. Our mission is to ensure that you have the opportunity to hear directly from the candidates, ask questions about the issues that impact your life, and head to the polls with confidence. To make sure your voice is heard, please keep these upcoming deadlines in mind. June 22nd is the voter registration deadline, June 24th, early voting begins, and July 21st is primary election day. A quick reminder, all registered voters, including independents, are eligible to vote in the upcoming primary election. If you're watching this debate live, we want to hear from you. You can submit a question for the candidates at any time using one of the following methods. You can email debates@kc-a.com. You can text 480-769-9511 or phone 480-937-1253. Thank you for joining us and for staying engaged in our democracy. For more resources to help you prepare for the upcoming July 21st primary election, please visit our website at azcleanelections.gov. Enjoy the debate.
Good evening and welcome to the Arizona Clean Elections debate for Legislative District 17, the Republican primary for State Senate. I'm your moderator, Joe Ferguson, reporter at the Tucson Agenda. I've been a journalist for about 16 years, mostly here in Southern Arizona, covering politics and government. Tonight, you're going to hear from the two candidates running for the Republican Party nomination in State Senate District, Legislative District 17. LD17 wraps around Tucson's north and east sides, from Rincon Valley and Tanque Verde north through the Oro Valley and Marana to Salbrook in southern Pinal County. Voters in this district will elect one state senator and two state representatives in November. This is an important race. Longtime incumbent Vince Leach is retiring this year, leaving an open Senate seat, meaning that no matter who wins, the voters in this district will have a new lawmaker. And LD17 is one of Arizona's most competitive districts. So the outcome of the GOP primary could decide whether Republicans or Democrats control the state Senate next year. Here's how the debate will go. Each candidate will start with a 90-second opening statement. Then we'll spend a few minutes getting to know these candidates as people. We'll then dig into core issues facing the district. And after that, we'll ask candidates to explain how they had voted on a real bill in this session. We'll include then a rapid-fire round of questions and finish with a 90-second closing statements. Okay, let's bring in our candidates. We have Anthony Dunham and Chris King. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
We're going to start with a 90-second opening statement from each of you. The order was set by random before the debate. The prompt is simple. Tell the voters who you are and why you're running. Anthony, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. My name is Anthony Dunham. I'm running for the Senate in LD17 because I believe that Arizona has the potential to be what it was when I moved here 15 years ago. 15 years ago, when I moved my family to Arizona, I saw the promise that Arizona could offer to me, to my children, to their future. Exploding in job growth, exploding in economic security, safe communities, leading the country in education and school choice. While Arizona is still leading in some of the school choice options, we have gone from 4th in new job growth to 42nd under Katie Hobbs' leadership. I'm here to right the ship. I'm not an establishment guy. I haven't taken funding from special interest groups, unions, or lobbyists. I'm running a We the People campaign because I believe we the people are tired. We're tired of politicians that make promises they can't keep. We're tired of politicians that run on platforms that don't affect our day-to-day lives. We need our roads fixed. We need our communities safe. We need our small businesses to be able to thrive. We need to bring down the cost of housing. We need to make Arizona affordable again. And we need to do all of this quickly so that we can get back to the leading status that Arizona has always known and been a part of. I believe that we can do this by keeping the majority in the state legislature, both in the House and the Senate, and by electing the right Republican candidate. I'm Anthony Dunham. I'm running to make Arizona great again. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, please tell the voters.
Joe, thank you, and thank you for Arizona Agenda for putting this on. Thank you to Clean Elections as well. I'm Chris King, combat veteran, educator, and neighbor. I served our nation in places like Afghanistan, Iraq, and South Korea, and others. I came to Arizona almost 25 years ago, a month before the attacks on September 11th. After my wife and I got married, we decided to make Arizona our home. We've lived in the same house in the district for almost 22 years, where our kids attended the award-winning Vail schools and graduated. I've lived a life of service, starting with the Cub Scouts all the way through my 20-plus year career in the Air Force. After I retired, I continued serving here in Arizona by training service members in forensic investigation down on Fort Huachuca, and then protecting travelers at Tucson International Airport with Transportation Security Administration while I continued my education. I've earned degrees from Cochise College, my undergraduate and graduate degrees from the University of Arizona, and another master's degree in educational administration and supervision. I currently serve as a substitute teacher outside of Vail, where I specialize in American government. I have a track record of service, not only in the military, but right here in our district. I've been elected to the Vail School District Governing Board and re-elected, where I advocated and still do advocate for parents, community members, and most importantly, the children. I look forward to continue serving you, my neighbors, in LD17 as your next state senator.
Thank you both. We're going to move on. The next segment is about who you are. This isn't about policy positions, but what shaped you, how you think, and what you do once in office. Each candidate will get 90 seconds, and there will be no rebuttals in this round. Chris, we're going to start with you.
Sure.
What in life before politics prepared you for this job?
Okay, so in the military, I served as both a tradesman, as electrician for the first few years of my career, as well as, and then I cross-trained into the world of explosive ordnance disposal. So if you've seen the movie The Hurt Locker, that is what my job actually was. I did it. I served in states around the country. I served as well as part of our mission as bomb technicians. We worked with the Secret Service, and that's kind of what opened my eyes to the lens of politics. But dealing with explosives and stressful situations that have real world dynamic impact and can take people's lives really kind of prepared me for that. My last deployment to Iraq in 2009, I served as a forensic investigator, and I ran a team over there an hour south of Baghdad. And what we were able to do is we were able to take the ground truth, the truth of what's out there, and actually affect change and prosecute bad guys who actually took American service members' lives, our allies' lives, as well as those of children who were over there. So protecting children has always been one of the things that's very, very important to me. And that's really kind of where prepared me, or what prepared me for this next chapter of my life.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Anthony, same question. What in your life before politics prepared you for this job?
Oh, well, just about everything. I did nearly a decade as a corrections officer in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I've worked amongst the worst of our society. I've protected our society from these individuals, but I've also seen the flip side of that. I was bivocational ministry for many years here in Southern Arizona, an ordained minister. I've seen what it's like to work with people that you can work with and people that you can't work with, and how to get a job done in those situations. I'm a lifelong volunteer for veterans organizations in my church and communities. I have volunteered for the last 2 years in the Vail schools, working with different events and fairs that they're putting on, and community events that they're putting on. I have made split of moment decisions when we were fighting for our health rights as an organization. And for those that did not want to receive the COVID vaccine, I became the unofficial spokesman for our officers in the prison and led a group of about 100 officers who said, we're not getting the vaccine. I took all the darts and all the arrows from it because I believe in the Constitution and I believe in our rights as individuals. And so I will govern in that manner. I grew up in upstate New York in a ministry home, and I'm an ordained minister myself. I'm a light or certified chaplain and spent a decade working inside the federal prisons. All of those things have prepared me to be the leader and the freedom fighter that LD17 needs. In addition, I served in the United States Army in Operation Iraqi Freedom 3. So I am a combat veteran and a fully disabled veteran.
Thank you. Chris, we're going to go back to you. We're going to ask you to name a member of the opposite party in the state legislature you actually respect. And what do you specifically respect about them?
Thank you, Joe. One of the members in the state legislature that I actually respect and talk to is Kevin Volk, who's the representative, one of the representatives for LD17 right now. And the reason I respect him is because he actually showed up out here in the district, and I got to know him and actually have conversations with him. We actually found out we have a lot more in common both as educators and our affinity for constitutional principles and our ability to discuss them almost like brothers versus adversarially. And he actually makes the conversation a lot of fun. And I've seen him at various events, even with the School Boards Association, where he comes in and he talks, and he actually does a pretty good job of keeping the politics out of the educational arena. So, and that's one of the reasons I respect him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Anthony, the same question to you. Name a member of the opposite party in the legislature you actually respect, and tell us what you specifically respect about them.
I haven't gotten to know many of the opposite. Kevin Volk did come to my door. He did try to talk to me when he was running the first time, almost 2 years ago now. And I did have a brief conversation with him. However, the constitutionality of his bills, he's rated as a tyrant on many issues from Turning Point USA and others. But what I have done is gotten to know Democrats right here in my own community, members that I meet with every single week. They live here. We talk together. Our kids play together. We'll sit down and have a beer together, watch a movie, just talk together, watch sports together. And we'll do that on Friday nights as our kids play together. And one of the conclusions that we've come to is we all have the best interests of our community in mind. So rather than choosing to disagree in a way that we cannot move our community forward, let's find whatever common ground we can to move our community forward as members of this community.
Thank you. Thanks for getting a little chance to get to know you both. We're going to turn to some issues now. This is the core of tonight's debate and the issues that voters told us matter most in the district. Here's the format. I'll ask both of you a question. Each of you will get 90 seconds to respond. After both of you have answered, I will open up a 60-second debate rebuttal window. You can respond to something the other candidate said or add to your own answer. I may ask a follow-up. So, Anthony, we're going to start with you. Immigration enforcement is a top issue for Republican voters. A new ICE detention facility in Marana is expected to open soon. If the town was to reverse course and try to block it from opening, and a bill came before the legislature to override them, how would you vote?
I would absolutely vote in favor of the facility. Keeping our borders safe is something that we have to do if we want safe communities. It's not debatable. We need that ICE detention facility because we need to deport those that have come here illegally. I think the key word there is illegally. We don't need new laws. We need to enforce the laws that are already here. So there would be no question in my mind that I would only support keeping that facility running and housing those that are here illegally. I would communicate with the leadership of the town of Marana to let them know where I stand as a legislature and talk through the issues with them. But we need that. ICE is important. Also, there should be no reason for any elected official to obstruct law enforcement from doing their constitutionally derived job. So that is the job of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, is to detain and eventually deport illegal aliens.
Chris, we're going to ask you the same question. So,
could you repeat that question for me, Joe?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you,
immigration enforcement is a top issue for Republican voters. A new ICE detention facility in Marana is expected to open soon. If the town were to reverse course and try to block it from opening, and a bill came to the legislature to override them, how would you vote?
Thank you for the question, Joe. Thank you for repeating it. One of the things that we have to look at the legislature is the ability of a municipality to kind of determine what's important to them, right? That's actually what we need to do as legislators as well. So here in the city of Tucson, it is a charter city. There are times where the charter kind of runs afoul of the state legislature, and the state legislature does try to get in there. And there's times where the legislature can affect change with the in the municipality. This is one of those where it's going to really center around discussion, as well as what the municipality wants, what the leadership wants in the municipality, as well as what do the stakeholders in the community want. Because in the end, right, the municipality has to live with the decisions that are made.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. Anthony, did you want a chance for a rebuttal?
My only rebuttal would be that, it is ordained in the Constitution that the federal government enforce immigration law and that they secure the borders. So I do not believe that an individual community has the right to tell the federal government they can't do their job. And so I think that the facility needs to go there as outlined by the Constitution.
Chris, we opened it up to Anthony. Do you want a chance to respond?
I understand where Anthony's coming from. However, the enforcement of the border security, correct, is a federal responsibility, but internally, once you get past that 100 miles, right, that becomes a slightly different issue. And Marana's kind of really close to that 100 miles. In the event that I was actually in the event that I'm in the legislature, we would have to actually look at what the bill says as well. You have to read what the bill says before you can truly make a decision on what it is. Going through with hypotheticals, it doesn't always work. So we have to look at what the bill language actually says. We can make a better decision there. But as it stands right now, it would really depend on what the bill says.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We're going to move on
I
to
saw the
question.
pen, by the way.
We're going to move on to question 2. Republicans have called for an end to mail-in voting and moving to a single-day hand-counted ballots. Most Republicans in Arizona vote by mail. Would you vote to end mail-in voting, or would you say what would you say to Republican voters who depend on it? Oh, sorry, guys. Chris, we're going to start with you.
Thanks, Joe. Mail-in voting is approved by about 80% of the voters here in Arizona. That's Republicans, Democrats, Green, no other labels, Libertarians. That's every voter. That's about 80% of the population. So a little over 6 million voters really appreciate the ability to vote by mail. Are there ways that we can actually address the issue with mail-in voting? Absolutely. We could tighten up the time frame. Instead of going to 29 days, we could actually bring it to 21 days. We don't have to get rid of mail-in voting, but we can absolutely tighten up the time frame in which mail-in voting does need to or can occur.
Okay. Thank you. Same question to you, Anthony.
Yeah, in an ideal world, we would have mail-in voting only for very rare exceptions, service members deployed overseas, those that are truly disabled, things of that nature. However, as Chris pointed out, 80% of Arizonans support mail-in voting. It was a ballot initiative, so the legislature can't just write a law changing that. It would have to go back to the people for a vote. And I think that would start with education, but I do think that there are concrete steps that need to be taken. Election integrity is a huge topic among 70% of all Americans of all political affiliations, not just Arizonans. 70% of Americans do not trust our current elections. So we need what I would support is some sort of law that would require a Florida-style voting system where your personal identifiable information and your party affiliation are not on the outside of the envelope. You request a ballot each election cycle, and your ID and signature are verified in order to continue with the mail-in balloting and have our elections secure. I 100% support same-day hand counting ballots. I think there's too much fraud amongst the machines.
Thank you both. Before we get to rebuttals, I want to ask both of you a quick follow-up question. Chris, have you ever voted by mail, and when was the last time?
Yes, sir. Yes, Joe, I have voted by mail. The first time I voted by mail, I was actually stationed in Korea, and I got my ballot, and this was before I became an Arizona resident. I have voted by mail a couple times. I stopped voting by mail and went back to the precinct voting. I actually like that because I get to know the people who are working in the system. And one of the ladies who works in the vote center where I work is Tony Helen. She's actually worked there, and we became friends when she was an elected official as well. So I actually do, because that's one of the few times I get to see her. So there is that relationship building process.
Anthony, same question to you. Do you vote by mail, and when was the last time you voted by mail?
Last time I voted by mail. I guess you could say I semi-voted by mail. So I received my ballot for the last 2 election cycles, the special election cycle here in Pima County for Props 418 to 19, and of course the last state elections that we had a year ago in November. I received my ballots in mail. Both of those times, though, I did not mail my ballot from a mailing station. I dropped it off at a voting center in person because I just don't trust the mail. And additionally, the Pima County Recorder's Office, even if none of your personal information is outside of the envelope, they put what is called a party affiliated ID number so that they know which party you're voting with just by what's outside the envelope. So I just didn't trust the system. So I did receive the ballots by mail, but dropped them off at a voting center in person.
Okay. Thank you both. Do either of you want a chance for a rebuttal? Doesn't sound like it, so we'll move on to question 3. Prop 123 expired last year, and schools are now relying on one-time backfill funds to stay open. Would you send a clean renewal bill to Arizona voters? Yes or no? We're going to start with you, Anthony.
I would have to look at the bill in more detail before I would say yes. I know that more than 50% of our state budget goes toward education. So why districts are running out of money, I'm not sure. I think that would involve a Doge style audit of all the counties and districts, which I would support. I know that in fiscal year 2025, that number was somewhere between 12 and 16 billion dollars just from the state budget alone, not counting outside sources that went toward education in Arizona. So I would have to look at a bill, make sure it's a clean bill, read it over extensively, and figure out why, when more than 50% of the state budget is already going toward education, these districts and schools are running out of money before I would 100% get behind a bill like that.
Okay. Chris, I'm going to ask you the same question. Would you send a clean renewal to Arizona voters? Yes or no?
Yes. And the reason being is Prop 123 actually provides additional funds for sites and other things. And last year, the state had to make up that roughly $300 million that fell off.
Okay. Did we lose Chris?
Yeah, I think
in the budget, so they had to make that up, and that came out. I'm sorry, did I lose you?
I'm gonna give you a rare chance to start over again. We lost you on audio for a second. Can you mind starting over?
No, not at all. So I'm just now starting to see I'm glitching too. So we have a little bit of weather over here. But yes, I would absolutely send a clean renewal as long as it didn't go back and there was no increases to the percentage that was actually taken out of the state land trust. So as long as it's a clean renewal, nobody gets anything new. Nobody gets, there's no increase to the tax rates. There's no adjustments that anybody else could take as well. And one of the
Sorry, viewers, we're having.
If I was going to add anything to it, I would make sure that I'm going to go restart my router real quick. I will be back in a few minutes.
Okay. We're going to take a moment now to say that today's debate has been brought to you by Clean Elections in association with the Arizona and Tucson agenda. We'll be doing these debates throughout the primary as well as during the general election. And we will have that time to post all of these on YouTube. Both the Tucson agenda and the Arizona agenda will be providing coverage before the debates as well as afterwards. These are public debates that are able to be shared and reviewed on YouTube for anyone who wants to get a second chance to watch the debates. Take a moment to just get Chris to come back on screen. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I just beg your patience.
We are having a little bit of weather issues out here on this side of town, so that might be affecting his.
I'm not that far away from you, and we're having the same storm roll in right now as well. So appreciate everybody who's holding on. I'm just going to take a moment to see if we have questions. So, yeah. I'll wait to ask questions until Chris comes back. But in the meanwhile, a reminder that you can ask questions in the YouTube chat that will be filtered back to me for questions if we have time at the end of tonight's debate. So again, for anybody who's just joining me, my name is Joe Ferguson. I work for the Tucson Agenda. We are in partnership with Clean Elections tonight to debate for the state Senate seat in Legislative District 17. So Welcome back. My name is Joe Ferguson. I'm with the Tucson Agenda, and this is part 2 of our clean elections debate. We had some minor technical difficulties, and we're going to start back by asking Mr. King a question that Mr. Dunham has had a moment to answer already. So again, Mr. King, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
The question had to do with Prop 123 and
Yes,
whether
sir.
you'd send a clean renewal to Arizona voters. Yes or no?
Absolutely. And it would really depend. And the reason that is when Prop 123 expired, what it did is it left a gap in education funding. And Mr. Dunham was right that more than 50% of Arizona's general fund does go to education. But when that 123 funding went away, it took more of a chunk out of, memory serves, it was about $300 million that the legislature actually had made agreement to fill that gap in the event that 123 wasn't reauthorized. So if a 123 clean bill was sent through and it didn't increase tax rates, if it didn't, or potentially lowered the tax liability, I would absolutely support that.
Thank you. Would either of you like a rebuttal or to add your answers?
I'd just like to rebut by saying, well, I don't completely disagree with Chris's point on, a clean bill. If it was a clean bill, I still think it's important to figure out where did that $300 million gap come from? Because if more than 50% of the state budget goes towards education, and we're talking somewhere between 12 and 16 billion dollars, how is there a $300 million gap? And I think that answer needs to be made up first before we send a bill or a proposition to the voters.
Chris, do you want to respond?
Yeah, and we've heard this before. It's not $16 billion that was going to education. And I'm gonna pull my notes out here because we've heard this before. Education only truly received an $11.83 billion piece. That was total education. And out of that, $7.76 billion came from the general fund. $1 billion went to the site fund. So for a grand total of $9.3 billion. The rest of that $2.4 billion that makes up that 11.8 came from the federal government. Yes, it's still our money, but if we're going to actually look at it, let's actually look at what the real numbers are. So that $300 billion did come out. It did affect classes and everything else, and it does affect students on the downstream. Auditing, school districts are audited every year because that's what the law requires. The Auditor General puts out a report every year on the school districts, how much they spend, everything else. The audits are there. All you got to do is look.
Number 4, we've got a question from a voter who wants us to address some reporting about Mr. Dunham. So, Mr. Dunham, I'm going to start with you. I want to give you a chance to speak directly to the incident detailed in the Arizona Republic article titled GOP Candidate Lets Ex-Wife Force Children to Drink Vinegar Until Vomiting. The story details how your parenting rights were temporarily removed in 2022 over an unusual punishment that your ex-wife imposed on your children from a previous marriage. What do you want the readers to know about that story and to understand?
First of all, a lot of those details were taken out of context and twisted. I do have all the necessary court reports. However, that's not for everybody to see. What I want you to know is that there's a couple of key words in there. Number one, ex-wife. And one of the things that is false is let. I did not let her do anything. I was actively in therapy with her, was actively working with my therapist on an exit strategy. And actually, on the day that I went to put that exit strategy in place to leave that woman and to get my kids to a safe location was the day that I was notified that the custody had been temporarily taken away from me. So I was actively working behind the scenes to get my kids out of that situation with a broken and surgically repaired back. After just months after having a spinal fusion, I was literally sleeping on the floor in their bedroom to protect them from this woman. So I did not let her do anything. I did not just stand by and do nothing, as the report would suggest. My kids are happy, healthy, and thriving to this day. I immediately got them out of that situation. I immediately, within 3 months, already had most of my parenting rights restored from that day of that happening. And within 6 months, I fully had my parenting rights restored. So it was a very rapid process. I did get my kids out of there. They are happy, healthy, and thriving. They've had nothing to do with that woman in almost 3 years. And that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. King, we're going to ask you a different but similar question. Please share some specific actions you have taken to protect or elevate children.
Excellent. So as a school board member, we were coming out of COVID, the only vote that I've taken was to actually remove masks. But that's one of the actions. But I've also worked as a school board member to work with the district to create a policy so that we don't lose and we don't fail to take care or wrap around kids in the event of a traumatic event. The day I was elected to the governing board in 2020, we had a student who took his own life. And the district, it seemed at the time, wasn't there. And so one of the parents reached out to me, and I've worked with the parent and I've worked with the district, and we've actually drafted a policy that makes sure that we wrap around those families and make sure that we don't forget the kids and we don't forget the families after a traumatic event. And we've had to use this policy not only for kids who've been involved in traumatic events, but also staff and employees, right? Because kids aren't the only ones who go through traumatic events. Parents, children, staff members all go through it. And because of the policies that that I kind of bulldogged to get finished, we're able to use that today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Would
sir.
either of you like to rebut or add to your answers? I'm sensing no. So we're going to move on to our last question. Again, this question comes from the audience, not the moderator. We've got another question here about data centers, which has become a hot issue in LD17 with a proposed data center in the works. Would you require new data center to bring in your own water and power, or is that government overreach into private business decisions? Chris, we'll let you go first.
Thank you, Joe. This is a question that's come up, and I've talked to a lot of the people that are out there. I do believe that if a data center wants to come in, a business wants to come in, there should be negative impact. There should be or a neutral impact to the taxpayers. It shouldn't increase their electricity rates. It shouldn't increase their water rates. They should be able to come in on day one, and it should be really impact neutral to the community.
Anthony, the same question to you.
Yeah, I would agree mostly that, if first of all, it would be up to that municipality and the citizens of that municipality as to whether or not they want that data center. I would say the first step would be they need to be knowledgeable on that. Data centers will tell you things like we're bringing 650 jobs. What they're not telling you is that 600 of those jobs are remote jobs and may not even be here in Arizona. So that's the first thing. Is educating the municipalities on what these data centers actually are. Number two, I do believe that they should be supplying their own water and power just because of the water crisis that we are in currently in Arizona and heading toward an even more traumatic water crisis in Arizona. And to keep the rates down for the citizenship and to keep the rates down for that community, they absolutely should be working their own situation with the corporation commissions and the power companies.
Thank you. And would either of you want to have a chance to rebut or add to your answers?
Joe, I kind of want to jump in on that. The majority of the jobs that are created for the data centers are temporary jobs, those are the trade jobs, whether it's the construction trades, whether they're the electricians, the linemen, the heavy equipment operators, the masons. Those are the majority of the jobs that are brought in for a data center, even the plumbers. I didn't want to forget anybody because I'm a former tradesman. And the jobs that remain here, they're going to be a lot more sparse. So you're talking 50 to 100 jobs total. The majority of those jobs, though, are going to be construction jobs, and those jobs are well paying. So, while they're temporary, they do provide an economic impact to the community and to the state as a whole.
Okay. We're going to take you both. We're going to change gears. We're going to get to explaining your vote. So before tonight's debate, each candidate received 5 actual bills from this legislative session. We've picked one of them for tonight.
Hey, Joe,
Here's how
we
it's
only
gonna-
got 3.
Yeah, we only got 3.
We will pick from one of those 3 tonight. Here's how this works. I'll read a short summary of the bill. Each of you will have 1 minute to tell voters 2 things: how you would have voted and why. There will be no rebuttals in this round. So tonight's bill we're going to discuss is HB 2580, ESA oversight. In short, it would expand the Arizona Department of Education and State Board of Education's rulemaking authority to adopt safely, transparency, and financial rules, oversight rules for ESA participation and condition for ESA spending on compliance with those requirements. So if you had been in the legislature this session, how would you have voted and why? Anthony, we're going to start with you.
I would have voted this bill down. And here's why. I think ESAs need to be left alone and fully funded. We do not need to do anything to take funding away from ESAs. As far as the oversight goes, they're already audited. I've talked to multiple parents who use the ESA program, and they receive an audit all the time. They have to submit the receipt to where those funds go. Also, less than 0.5% of recipients of the ESA funds are actually even investigated for fraud or convicted of fraud. So the fraud in the program is very, very low. Parents should be completely 100% in charge of where and how their children are educated. So I would have voted this bill down. I think the oversight is already there. We don't need new laws. We need to enforce laws that are in place, continue to provide the audits to the families as they're getting them. As the families I've spoken to have talked about, that they do receive audits, they do have to prove that those funds are going toward educational things. So I don't think there's any need for a new bill already stating what we already have on the books.
Thank you. Chris, same question.
In some aspects, I'll agree with Anthony on this one. I would have voted the bill down, but for other reasons. While Anthony was correct that ESAs are actually they are audited and everything else, the bill actually goes a little bit further and requiring micro schools to do fingerprints and everything else. Well, a lot of these micro schools are ran by parents, right? So the micro schools actually come together. So, and if memory serves, 2580 prohibited operators of micro schools from receiving any type of reimbursement for the operation of the micro school. So that right there would say, okay, you can operate a micro school as a parent, but you can't receive the ESA funds to do so. So that in and of itself, that's part of the reason I would have said absolutely not. On top of that, it requires the fingerprints. We don't require fingerprints for people to have kids and make babies. So why would in the world would we require parents who are operating their own little micro school to be fingerprinted? Thank you.
Thank you both. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to go on to the rapid fire section. This is a very short 15 seconds to answer the question and give a short explanation. I will cut people off if it gets too long. So the pen is the first warning, and after that, I'll interrupt.
Not the pen.
Question 1 is going to go to Chris. Who would have been a better governor for Arizona, Carrie Lake or Karen Taylor Robinson?
Karen Taylor Robinson?
Yep.
Again, that's a speculation, but my guess is probably Karen Taylor Robinson. Based on having met both of them, Karen Taylor Robinson, I believe, had to have more of the policy level experience with her service on ABOR as well as business.
Thank you. Mr. Dunham, same question.
Yeah, again, I would say probably Karen Taylor Robinson. Well, I'm not excited about either one of those two individuals. Definitely not excited about Katie Hobbs. I think KTR would have done a better job, and we wouldn't be in a lot of the positions we're in.
Thank you. Second question is to name a road, a bridge, an intersection in your district that has just been broken for too long. Anthony, I'm going to go back to you.
Just one?
Just one.
There's a lot of roads. I'm going to go with Pantano Parkway. It is very, well, it's not in my district, so let's go with Houghton Road. While they're working on the construction of Houghton Road, it's taken far too long, and Houghton Road is just a mess. Your cars get beat up, and you get beat up driving up and down it, and we need to get these roads fixed, and we need to get them fixed soon.
Thank you. Chris, same question.
I was gonna say Houghton Road, but because I transited quite a bit, but I'm gonna say Irvington between Houghton and Kolb, which is right where the District 4 office is. I actually had pictures of one pothole that was 6 foot long, 3 foot wide, and 3.5 inches deep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Our last question in the rapid fire section is going to go back to Anthony again. Do you believe your ballot was counted accurately in the 2020 presidential election?
No.
Okay.
And I
Chris?
believe the data shows that. I mean, I believe it's indisputable. 80% of Americans, no matter what their political affiliation, do not believe we have safe and secure elections.
Chris, same question.
Absolutely. And the reason being is because I've served and worked in the elections department in the tabulation room, and I've seen you down there. So you know exactly what actually goes on down there. So I worked there several years. I know what goes on, and I know once the ballots get in there, they're tabulated accurately. We've actually done the hand counts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. That ends our last round of questions. We're going to go to our closing statements. So this means that each candidate will get 90 seconds, and the order is the same as your openings. So since you opened, we're going to start with you first.
With me? Okay.
Yeah.
Once again, my name is Anthony Dunham. I'm running here in the Senate for LD17. I'm running a campaign fueled by the people because I believe the people deserve the seat at the table and their voice to be heard. We're tired of lobbyists, special interest groups, and unions being the ones that influence our politicians and our governors. Taking money from them means that they have the influence. I've not taken money from them. I will not take money from them. I will legislate solely from the Constitution. The first criteria any bill that comes across my desk must meet is first and foremost, is it constitutional? We, the people, are tired of our voice not being heard, our votes not counting, and our issues not being solved. And the reason they're not being solved is because we're sending the same career establishment politicians up to Phoenix and to Washington, D.C. time and time again. And it's time for some real change. Real reform begins at home. Vote for the We the People candidate. Vote for Anthony Dunham, and we'll make Arizona great again together.
Thank you, sir. Chris, to you.
Make sure I got my thing here. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Arizona Clean Elections, for this debate tonight. And thank you to the Arizona Agenda for allowing Joe to come out and hang out with us for a while. This race comes down to a simple question. Who's better prepared to deliver results for the LD17 families? I'm Chris King, 20-plus year Air Force combat veteran who disarmed explosive devices in Afghanistan and Iraq. I've served the Vail School District as an elected school board member since 2021. I'm a substitute teacher, husband, father, and proud grandparent who has lived in the district and built relationships throughout all of LD17. While others bring enthusiastic talking points, I've been delivering results. I've protected children. I've stood up for families. I've fought for public safety and the men and women of law enforcement. I will always fight for a smaller, limited government and will continue to mount an unwavering defense of our Constitution. I'm your neighbor who has put in the hard work of modeling what governance should look like. I've signed the pledge for congressional term limits. And if you want proven service, proven results, and someone who understands conservative principles, not just talking points and promises, I humbly ask for your vote on Election Day. Visit chriskingforaz.com to learn more and connect. Together, let's work to keep Arizona safe, free, and strong. May God bless you, and may God bless the great state of Arizona.
Thank you both. This concludes our Republican primary debate for Legislative District 17. To our candidates, we want to thank you so much for participating. And to the voters, we want to thank you for taking the time to watch the debate to inform yourselves before the July 1st primary election. We encourage you to vote. Visit azcleanelections.gov for official, accurate voting information. Thanks to everyone, and have a good night.